Hello, welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children, the podcast where I share the recordings of the bedtime stories I've improvised for my children over the years. I'm Dan Wendelin, your host and storyteller. For almost 20 years, I made up a new story for my children every night at bedtime. Many of those stories were recorded, and now I'd like to share the very best of those with you. I hope you enjoy these stories for wonderful children.
Charlotte was 8 years old, and she was a detective. She helped other kids in her neighborhood solve mysteries when there was a mystery. On this particular day that I'm going to tell you about, Charlotte was sitting in her living room reading a book. She was reading a book about Sherlock Holmes, the famous detective. And she was reading it through her big magnifying glass. She liked to carry her magnifying glass around because it made her feel like a real detective to have a magnifying glass to search for clues. She was sitting there reading when she heard a knock on her back door. She looked up and it was Lily, one of her best friends, who lived 3 houses down in the blue house. She opened the door and said, "Hi, Lily. How are you doing?" Lily was clearly very excited and out of breath and must have run, because she said, "Hi, Charlotte. I've come in a hurry because I think there's a mystery for you." "Really?" said Charlotte. "Let's go." She put her magnifying glass in her pocket and followed Lily out the door after telling her mother that she was going out to play. She walked down the street to the open grassy field where the kids in the neighborhood liked to play. There were several kids gathered there. As Charlotte and Lily got closer to the group of kids, she could see that they were all standing around Robert. Robert was 7 years old and had bright red hair, and he was the fastest runner in the neighborhood. They were all looking at something. As they walked up, Charlotte could hear Robert saying, "Yeah, so I have to wear these old ones until we can afford to buy some new running shoes now." "What happened?" said Charlotte. "Somebody took my brand new running shoes," said Robert. "Whoa," said Charlotte. She got out her notepad that she always used when she was investigating a mystery. She flipped it open to a clean page and wrote in neat letters across the top of the page, "Robert's running shoes are missing." "Tell me about it," she said. "Well," said Robert, "I got home from school and I took our dog out into the backyard and I stepped in some dog poop. And so I had to take off my running shoes and leave them on the back porch so I wouldn't get dog poop in the house. And I went inside and got my after-school snack, and then I did my homework. And when I came back out to get them after I was done with my homework so I could go play before dinner, they were gone." "Oh," said Lily. "Did you see anyone take them?" "No," said Robert. Said Lily. "Do you think it was another kid?" "It has to have been," said Robert. "Who else would steal a pair of kids' shoes? They wouldn't fit grown-up feet." "Oh," said Lily. She said, "Well, let's think about clues then. You're right. It would have to be somebody who had the same size feet as you." Robert said, "Yeah, that's why I'm making all the kids show me their shoe size." "Well," said Charlotte, "I don't think it would be a kid from the neighborhood, because where would they wear them? They couldn't wear them around. You'd know they were yours." "Oh, good point," said Robert. "Besides," said Charlotte, "we don't have any thieves in this neighborhood." "Yeah, I sure hope not," said Robert. "Must be a kid from outside our neighborhood," said one of the other kids. "Maybe," said Charlotte. "Has anyone seen any strange kids around today?" Everyone thought for a moment. Peter, who was 10 years old, said that he saw a kid that he didn't recognize riding his bike through the neighborhood a couple hours ago. "Oh. Did he stop anywhere?" "No, he just rode along." We need to find out who that kid is. We need to ask him some questions, said Charlotte. They all agreed that they would keep an eye out for the kid. If they saw him, that they would let Charlotte know so she could ask some questions. Let's visit the scene of the crime, said Charlotte. She stopped. Before putting her notebook back in her pocket, she wrote, strange kid on a bike. And she wrote down Robert's shoe size, which was size 12. Then they all walked over to Robert's house and looked at the back porch, which was, just as he had said, quite empty of shoes. Getting out her magnifying glass and carefully examining the back porch, Charlotte could see where the shoes had been from the faint imprint of dog poop left on the steps. She thought to herself. I wonder. Robert, she said, was Banjo outside while you were inside doing your homework? Banjo was Robert's dog. I think so, said Robert. Where does Banjo take things that he takes? Said Charlotte. Robert stared at her for a second. Oh, he said, and then he took off at a run for the back of his yard, with all the kids behind him. He ducked under a tree that was in the back corner of the yard, and a moment later they heard him yell with glee, saying, Banjo! And he came walking out of the tree with his running shoes in his hand. I think we've found our thief, but I don't think they put dogs in jail, said Charlotte. She drew a line across the bottom of her page of her notebook and wrote, Case solved. It was Banjo. Then she closed her notebook and she said, Now then, what shall we do? Robert said, Well, my mom just made some lemonade. Everybody want to come in and have some lemonade? And so they all did.
Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but heckling and clever commentary were supplied by my children. The theme music was created by Brandon Thompson, and the logo was designed by Silas Wendelin. If you know someone who might enjoy the stories, please tell them about the show. Our website is storiesforwonderfulchildren.com, and preview snippets are posted to most social media. I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.